Hello and welcome to Stitches and Slapdashery, Slowvember, day 14. Make a fairy notebook. Twig, spine, paper, twine, and pressed leaves and a craft paper cover. This is going to take a while to get ready for because it's a lot of stages. So I'm going to go around my craft room and back up to my dining room where I left most of my craft supplies yesterday and get everything together. For pages, I have just regular copy paper, but I want to get rid of that bleached brightness of it. So I'm thinking of giving these a watercolor wash, which means they'll have to be left to dry for a while. So this is not going to be a quick project. And this came out of one of my notebooks, and I realized it's a complete piece of paper that's just been folded to put into the notebook. So I think this will be perfect for the cover. I have a twig. I collected a few extra twigs when we were out hiking on the weekend. And this one has a nice character and a good length. So that's going to be on the spine. I have two options for tying or binding it. I could use my natural jute, or I did find this rather interesting white cord that feels very rustic. I better knot the end of that, hadn't I? It started to fray. And I like the contrast of that against the brown paper / card. So either one of those for tying the binding. I have my tubes of watercolor and my paintbrushes and a jar of water at the ready. I have some beads in here which are made from like a natural clay, I think, which would be rather nice added to the string that I use to bind it. Now, there's a good reason to use the thinner string, because obviously I'm going to be limited by the hole unless I split my plies. But there's some rather nice ones in here. Ooh, I like that one. And that one. This is just a bunch of random stuff that's been sitting around in my craft room for far too long. So either clay beads or maybe these wooden ones. I have quite the collection of wooden ones in here too. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with that. Yes, that's a rope bowl I made years ago. Handy things. What else have I got? My palette at the ready for the painting. Glue for applying leaves. For one of my pages, I'd love to incorporate this colouring page. Absolutely beautiful. Not sure how I'm going to do it at this point. I also have a stamp pad, and these two I feel like are rather fairy and magical appropriate ones. This is the fairy, this is a deer. So it'd be kind of nice to incorporate some stamping in here as well. I also have individual lowercase letters in case I want to put some lettering in there. Let's get the thread out of the way. I don't think I'm going to need that. I have a bit of lace that my friend left behind yesterday, which could end up going in, and my needles. And last but not least, I have some pressed leaves, some pressed maple leaves, some dried maple seeds, also some rather pretty pink seeds, which I think would be lovely stuck in there, and some smaller pressed leaves from the same hike last weekend where I collected the sticks. This is very, very prickly. Got quite nasty thorns on it. And even though I pressed it along with these, I mean, these were already this color when I pressed them. This one is still green, but I love the shape of it. So that's a possibility too. So what I should do first is the stuff that needs to dry, obviously. I don't think you need much of this, so I'm just going to roughly color her face like so. This is the first time I've used the Derwent Inktense on paper, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to be doing it right. We will see. Put some pink on her lips. Again, I don't think you need to fill it in completely because you just have to have enough ink laid on the paper to be able to spread it with the water brush. Pretty. I'm going to stop there and then get it wet and see what it looks like. I'm going to be pretty careful with how much water I apply though, because I know it can bleed. Let's start down here with the hands. Ooh, that's really lime. She's going to have a lime green face and hands. Well, for my first time using that on paper, I rather love that. It was very quickly done and it's still drying. I did get a little bit of a bleed of something in here. There shouldn't be a darker patch right there, and I'm not sure whether that's just excess water or something bled from the hair. But I love the way you can blend the colours like this. And you lay the colours down and they look like nothing much, but as soon as you add the water, I mean, look how intense that pink and orange are on her face. Oh my God, so beautiful. And the red as well in the flowers. So that needs to go dry. Now it's time to start punching holes. Let me see, do I have everything? I think I have most things. My glue looks like it might still be wet in places. This doesn't look like it's stuck down at all. Maybe it's okay. That one I think will probably be all right. That one's definitely still tacky. This one's definitely wet down here. The leaf's okay, but this is a bit wet. And that is definitely still wet. You can see the blobs of glue. All right, so what we'll do is I'll just grab my hammer. And I've made myself this guide for my holes. Not sure how many I can stamp all at once. Probably a good idea not to do too many at one go. I'm just going to put that right there. And then grab my hole making tool. First I need a sip of tea because I'm starting to croak. Ah, that's better. All right. I think this thing could probably cut through numerous layers. Before I decide that I'm done with making a noise, I'm just going to see how thick this is going to turn out. I have to imagine I have 3 more pages in here because those gluey ones are still a bit wet. I'll apply this to my stick. It's pretty thin compared to the stick. So I think I am going to use some of my leaf printed linen and put that in there as well. I was looking at those earlier and thinking, that would be nice in a fairy notebook, wouldn't it? Let me see. This one's rather lovely. And then out of these two, which one do I prefer? That one. And then out of the 2 prints from the pansy, this one definitely has the most vibrancy. So I was thinking, I've got my biggest darning needle, and I think this cord is going to be too thick because it has to go through each hole twice. So I'm also hoping that this isn't going to be too thick. I do have options. Let me just go grab my other things. I think I have decided that I am going to use this bamboo cord. I bought it from Michael's a long time ago. Probably was thinking of using it for jewellery. And you get 4 colours. And I rather like this variegated one. If I can find the end of it. Hang on. It's a bit hard to know how much you're going to need. I'm not remembering clearly how I've done this before. I have done bookbinding before, and I can't remember what style of binding this is, but basically you're going to be going around the stick through the hole, up around the stick through the hole, and then back down again, I think. Now, whilst I have done this before, it's been a while. And I know Kate at the Last Homely House has done her fair share of this as well, and I think that's who I learned it from. But I'm going to just sort of wing it, hope for the best. Oh, Anna and Carlos have done a lot of this as well. They've made some really, really lovely workbooks for themselves, which they use for pasting in all sorts of inspiration and things. So what I'm going to do, I possibly should have put my holes closer to the edge because of the twig needing to be up against it. Maybe what I will do is I will do all my layers just without the twig, and then I'll add the twig on afterwards. So I'm going to leave a bit of a tail and go up that way. Yeah, the linen is just slightly getting in the way of the needle there. I just realised I had not plugged my phone into charge while I was recording, and I don't want it to die because this is a long session. So this is not an official way to bind a book, folks, just in case you were wondering. I'm just doing this as I go because, you know, God forbid I should actually follow the instructions on the Mud and Bloom website, eh? All right, so I've just done that as an initial attachment so that it holds it all together. And now I'm going to figure out how to put the twig on it. So what I do like is to have a loop coming around the bottom and then up through that hole. Now I'm going to put the twig here. I'm going to go around the twig and back through here. The twig probably should have been a little bit longer. There we are. Now I'm going to go down through there. And from the back, I'm going to bring it over and then go down through that hole again. Now, I think the twig is not going to want to stay on the edge because my notebook is not very thick. It wants to go to the front, so I think I'm going to let it go to the front. So let me just tighten this a bit here. Which end do I want to pull on? That's the question. All right. This is not going to look quite like the one on the website. Also, I was thinking, if you're making a fairy notebook, you know, wouldn't you make it like really small for actual fairies? But not this one. This one's quite a decent size for people. And then to the next hole. And around. I'm very glad I used this bamboo thread. I'm looking a little loose there, because if I had tried to use anything thicker, it would not have worked. Oh, I just pulled on that and it tightened that one way up there. Okay, good. So I have to push it up a bit. And over and through. And thankfully, because I'm at the right place here, I can put a second strand in the right place so that I'm not looking at a very uneven job. I didn't want to have 3 strands in one place and 1 in another. Yeah, this was the perfect thread. Now, do I want to come back here? No, I don't want to come back here because I'm actually in the right place to knot it off and finish. So yeah, I think I probably cut about 3 feet of cord, because the last thing you need is for it to run out when you're partway through your lacing. I'm happy with that. Let's do a last flick through. We have our beadies, and our twig. My linen is fraying. There we go. A little bit of lace sewn on with some embroidery thread. You can see the stitching on the back. One of my leaf prints on the linen. Fairy magic. This definitely, the colours of this don't really fit in with the general aesthetic, do they? But I rather like her lovely face in there. The colours are very vibrant. At first they don't look that vibrant. It's not until you add the water that you realise how bright they are. And then we've got a little deer. And we've got a little bit of sticking happening because I was impatient. No, it's all right now. I've got my pressed leaves and seeds. Just a green page. A blue fairy page that makes me think of water. Another pressed flower leaf page. More water. Another tiny bit of stickiness where I was impatient. It'll be okay. Another deer multicolored page. Fairy and brown. Yellow and a lovely yellow spotted leaf. Another leaf print on linen. Another striped page and that lovely bramble type leaf on green. Well, that was quite the project for today. That took me about 2 hours, not counting the time it took to get all of the materials gathered together first. Whew. And for the second part, I had a city worker going past my window a few times because they cut our water off briefly to put a new meter in, and then they reconnected it. So he showed up while I was having my lunch break and I had a mouthful of food. And then he came back to the door again because I had to check that the water was running clear, which it wasn't at first. It had a little bit of brown water coming out and then it went clear. And then I thought they were done, but I'm sitting here in my basement sewing room, which is on the front of the house, and I see him keep walking by, and I'm thinking, is he looking in and wondering what on earth I'm doing? Oh, well, you know, par for the course. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me for that fairy notebook. I don't know why it is, but November always seems to be a month for paper crafts for me. The last couple of years, during November, I have always been drawn to making journals. And so making a notebook fitted right in with my habit of doing that. So that was great. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow for something else that's fun. See you then.